Okay, let's unpack this chaotic scene. We're diving into the United States Championship Fatal 4-Way match from Backlash 2025.
Jacob Fatu, LA Knight, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre. It spun off into so many different directions, unexpected stuff.
Absolutely. It started as this predictable clash, well, as predictable as a Fatal 4-Way gets, but it ended up being this, like, launching pad for whole new stories.
We've got info coming from, all over ringside commentary, backstage whispers, expert takes.
Exactly.
So setting the scene first, the entrances, they took their time, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Really milked it. Built that big fight feel.
And the crowd was loud. You had Cole and Barrett on commentary. No Pat McAfee, obviously. He had his own match later.
Right.
What's fascinating right from the get-go is just how many individual stories are colliding in this one match.
Totally.
You have 4 distinct competitors, and each one has a really personal stake in walking away with that United States title.
Absolutely. Let's start with LA Knight. The energy from the crowd for this guy was, wow, undeniable. You could practically feel it.
The momentum he had coming into this was pretty significant. He'd racked up a lot of wins recently, and he had that fan investment.
Yeah, he did.
That yeah chant, it just explodes every single time.
You can't deny it. It's like part of the show now, his signature sound.
Totally.
Then you had Drew McIntyre. Talk about a competitor with something to prove. He won a #1 contender match, which usually means a straight path to the title, right? So being thrown into this Fatal 4-Way. Oh, it clearly didn't sit well with him.
Not at all.
Plus, it was mentioned he hasn't held a title since WrestleMania 40, which is like a long time for a former world champion.
Yeah.
And winning the U.S. title would also make him a Grand Slam champion.
And for those maybe less familiar, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
A significant milestone. It typically means holding the world championship, a major secondary title like the U.S. or IC title, tag belts, and maybe a lower tier singles title too.
Right.
So looking at the bigger picture, McIntyre's frustration is pretty understandable. He felt he'd earned that one-on-one shot.
Yeah.
And the stipulation, well, okay, technically it offers an easier path since he didn't need to pin Fatu. It probably felt like an obstacle he shouldn't have had to face.
Right. And we can't forget Damian Priest, a former U.S. champ, so he knows what it takes.
Knows the landscape.
Exactly. But the commentary also reminded us of his recent tough loss to McIntyre at WrestleMania 41. That brutal Sin City street fight.
Oof. Yeah.
You could tell there was still some serious heat there, and he definitely had a point to prove. They even mentioned his big match at Backlash in Puerto Rico a couple of years back, so he's got history with this event too.
And that brings up an interesting point about Priest's strategy, doesn't it? Was his main goal reclaiming the U.S. title, or was there also this strong undercurrent of settling the score with McIntyre kind of influencing his actions?
Good question. And finally, the reigning champion, Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu still getting this massive support, which is pretty interesting given his whole deal.
It really is. He connects.
This guy was presented as just an absolute powerhouse, undefeated since arriving in WWE, a dominant streak.
Quarter force.
And here's where things got really interesting. Strategically, it was constantly emphasized that he didn't have to be the one pinned or submitted to lose the title.
Right.
Anyone scoring a fall on any of the 4 competitors would become the new champion.
And that unique stipulation, it just fundamentally changes the whole match dynamic. It puts a different kind of target on Fatu's back.
Okay, so the bell rings, and immediately the broadcast team is like, avoid Fatu if you can. Focus on getting a pin on Knight, McIntyre, or Priest.
Obvious strategy. And it wasn't just a free-for-all immediately.
No, it split off kind of naturally into those existing rivalries, didn't it?
Yeah, Fatu went right after Knight, and then you had McIntyre and Priest picking up where they left off. It showed how all these grudges were tangled up in the match itself. Everyone had someone they wanted to take out first.
And we saw some big moves early. Knight hit that leaping neckbreaker, the DDT, and right out of the gate, LA Knight just explodes. He was all over Fatu and Priest, even getting some very, very close near falls. The commentary was really impressed with that initial burst, but also, wondering if he could keep up that incredibly high pace.
What really stood out in those opening moments was how decisively Knight just established himself as a major threat. He came out with a clear plan and, executed it almost perfectly.
Almost.
But yeah, like the commentary said, sustaining that intensity for the whole match, that's a huge ask.
Then we saw those classic temporary alliances start to form, the kind you often see in these Fatal 4-Ways.
Always happens.
For a brief moment, Knight and Priest seemed to have a common goal: target Jacob Fatu. But as the broadcast team noted, these partnerships are always fragile, self-serving. Trust is pretty rare in a match like this.
It's a compelling part of these multi-person matches, though.
Yeah.
Necessity creates these, like, fleeting collaborations, but ultimately, every single person is looking out for number one, their own chance to win.
Absolutely. And McIntyre definitely had moments where his raw power just took over. The commentary highlighted some absolutely brutal neck breakers he hit on Fatu.
Vicious.
But like you said, fatal four-way rules. Things change fast. You think you're in control, then bam, someone fresh comes flying in.
And we saw those moments, right, where you thought, okay, this is it. Almost landed that Claymore early on.
You could really feel the impact of those moves just through the announcer's reactions. I mean, this was four incredibly physical guys going at it.
McIntyre's intensity was undeniable. He brought his signature hard-hitting style, really showcasing his strength and athleticism. That Claymore attempt, even though it missed, sent a clear message, I am here to dominate.
Priest wasn't just taking it, though. He showed off some surprising agility for a guy his size. Hit a really impressive Hurricane Rana on Fatu.
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
And then a sharp flatliner on Knight. The broadcast team seemed genuinely impressed by his versatility and, willingness to take risks.
Priest is fascinating because he blends that powerful physical style with those unexpected bursts of high-risk stuff. It keeps opponents off balance. Adds another layer of unpredictability.
Now here's where years of bad blood really bubbled up.
Yeah.
McIntyre and Priest locked horns, and the commentary made sure we remembered Priest had cost McIntyre the world title before.
Oh yeah, they weren't letting us forget that.
This wasn't just about the U.S. Championship for these two. There was deep personal history fueling it.
That history between them just added significant emotional weight to their exchanges. It wasn't only about the title. There was this palpable sense of unresolved conflict in every strike, every near fall.
And Fatu just tossing Priest around outside with that Samoan drop. Pure power.
The momentum just kept swinging back and forth.
Yeah.
Constant near falls.
Kept you guessing. Really well done, actually. Made you believe anyone could take it at several points. Amplified the drama, for sure. And then we got this incredible raw clash between McIntyre and Fatu. The commentary called it two alpha males just unloading.
Just throwing bombs.
They even mentioned McIntyre's. Well, let's just say colorful trash talk, suggesting Fatu might get dog-walked. And Fatu responded with some seriously powerful offense. Showed why he was the champ.
That segment really highlighted the raw power and intensity both men bring. McIntyre's aggressive talk and Fatu's explosive moves. It made for a really compelling physical confrontation.
But in the middle of that intense back and forth, there was this subtle but crucial turning point the commentary picked up on.
What was that?
McIntyre, caught up in the heat of the moment, inadvertently created an opening for LA Knight. It's often those small, unintended things that can completely shift the momentum, right?
Absolutely. In a fatal four-way, you're not just battling your direct opponents, you're dealing with the ripple effects of everyone else's actions, including your own mistakes.
And then the whole thing just, it exploded into utter chaos. The fight between McIntyre and Priest spilled outside the ring, escalating into this wild brawl.
Way into the back.
Took them all the way into the backstage production area. We heard the shock in the commentators' voices as Priest delivered this absolutely brutal south of heaven chokeslam to McIntyre through a set of tables.
Oh man, that sound.
EC-dub, EC-dub, EC-dub. The audio really conveyed the sickening impact.
The broadcast team's reaction really emphasized how severe that spot was. Taking a move like that, off the elevated production area, crashing through tables, incredibly dangerous. Created a huge, memorable moment. McIntyre just wiped out.
Looked nasty. Reports say McIntyre was, banged up, but ultimately okay. Priest might have actually chipped a tooth or something in the chaos.
Just absolutely brutal stuff. And think about what that did.
Strategically. Yeah, it took both of them out of the equation, at least for a bit.
Exactly. Suddenly it's just LA Knight and Fatu left standing, relatively speaking.
And Knight sees his chance, puts Fatu on the announce table.
Looked like he was going to do the Shane McMahon elbow drop.
Right.
From the top rope to the table.
Totally channeling Shane O'Mac. Climbs up, ready to go.
And then, bam! Solo Sikoa, out of nowhere.
Pulls Fatu off the table, saves him.
Knight must have been absolutely furious. You could see it.
Well, yeah. And that's a huge moment. Solo injecting himself, the bloodline narrative crashing right into the U.S. title scene.
Raises questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Did Fatu know? Was this planned?
Didn't look like it. Fatu seemed almost surprised Solo was even there.
He really did. And while Knight's distracted, yelling at Solo, chaos erupts again.
This was the big shocker. Guy hops the barricade. attacks Knight.
Just blindsides him. And it's Jeff Cobb.
Jeff Cobb. Cole on commentary lost it a bit, calling him like one of the biggest free agents on the planet.
Huge surprise. And we're hearing he apparently had to take like multiple flights from Japan just to make it there in time. Crazy travel.
Makes the moment even bigger. And Fatu's face during all this.
Yeah, he looked completely bewildered. Like, who is this guy? What's happening? Zero indication he expected Cobb.
Which tells you a lot, doesn't it? Suggests this wasn't Fatu's plan? Maybe Solo's operating on his own here.
Seems that way. So Fatu, almost like he's hesitant.
Yeah, a bit reluctant, maybe.
Gets back in the ring, hits that running hip attack in the corner, goes up, double jump moonsault on a Knight.
And that's it. 1, 2, 3. Fatu retains.
But the aftermath, that was almost as telling as the match.
Absolutely. Fatu gets the belt, but then he just walks right past Sikoa and Cobb. No eye contact, no nod, no nothing. Just walks straight to the back, alone.
No celebration with them, no acknowledgement at all.
Speaks volumes, right? That tension between him and Solo, it's clearly still there, maybe even worse now. Fatu doesn't seem happy about how he won or who helped him.
So is Cobb the new soldier Solo was talking about on SmackDown?
It fits, doesn't it? The timing, the way it happened. Plus, you hear whispers about injuries in the bloodline ranks. Maybe Cobb's there to, fill a gap, bolster the numbers.
Could be Solo building his own version of the bloodline, maybe. A bigger group.
That seems like a very real possibility now. Which leaves us with, well, a lot of questions.
The big one being, if Cobb is Solo's guy, what happens with Fatu? Where does he fit in this? Is he really in charge of his own title reign?
Or is he caught in Solo's game now? Does he even want to be? The power dynamics feel like they're shifting dramatically.
And you still got the fallout from the rest of the match. McIntyre and Priest clearly aren't finished.
Not by a long shot. Commentary was already buzzing about future matches there, and Fatu's got this whole new Cobb-Sikoa dynamic to deal with while defending his title.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about the critical take? How did the sources say the match itself was received?
Dave Meltzer's review seemed pretty positive. He gave it 4 1/4 stars, called it excellent.
Solid rating.
Yeah. He noted Fatu was the clear crowd favorite going in, but that the crowd was super into the whole match. Even did the sarcastic "we want tables" chant, despite the action being good.
Ha, classic. Did his review mention anything else specific?
It did reiterate that Fatu versus McIntyre face-off got the best reaction, and confirmed McIntyre was hurt from the table spot. But like Triple H said, not seriously. No time off expected.
Gotcha. We then had a quick break for some ads, WWE Shop, and of course, those always entertaining Old Spice commercials with Jey Uso and R-Truth.
Got to pay the bills. Natural part of the broadcast. Give a little pause, highlights the partners. Standard stuff.
And then came the promotion for WWE's next big event, Night of Champions, heading to Saudi Arabia on June 28th.
Big international show.
Yeah, they even mentioned the first ever SmackDown taking place in Riyadh the night before, so WWE is definitely continuing that global expansion.
Yeah, it signals their ongoing commitment to international markets. Builds anticipation for the next major event on the calendar.
Finally, Michael Cole really hyped up the main event of the evening, a true clash of titans. John Cena versus Randy Orton for the undisputed WWE Championship.
Legendary matchup.
He emphasized their incredible, storied history, 93 matches between them, 23 one-on-one. That's a rivalry that basically defined a generation of wrestling fans.
That main event promised a fitting end to the night, didn't it? A battle between two legends with such a deep history, a real contrast to the unpredictable chaos of the Fatal 4-Way.